Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about morals. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, "Hi Frederick, I have a question. So I'm a newly graduated developer and I started a job at a startup. The company is made up of only a couple of people and the technology I'm working on is a low code one. I took the job because I'm struggling financially and it pays quite well. However, I think that by taking the job, I'm hindering my coding abilities, and in doing so, I'm ruining my progress as a developer. Is it morally acceptable to stay a couple of months until I get on my feet and then look for a real programming job, or should I stay at the startup because I've been given a chance as a rookie despite it not being exactly what I want career-wise?" Well, yeah, if you the moral thing is sort of, I'll do the cross sign and say I bless your desire to do something that you really want to do, and there you go. Now it's okay for you. I've said so, so it has to be true. It's okay for you now to pursue the thing that you actually want. It's I always come back to this thing where the sensation of loyalty that some people show to, which I think is, it's at its heart and soul of it. The heart and soul of it is absolutely something that I feel myself, and it's something that is, of course, very noble of you. But I think that you should change a little bit, at least the way that you think about it, because the idea when you take a job is that there is a mutual benefit. You get paid a salary because you are producing some type of value. Certainly, there are situations where people make an investment in you, and if there are expectations and so forth, it's no different from, if you have a partner, like if you go into a relationship with somebody or so forth, that there are certain expectations and so forth, and you go into those willingly. But when you take a job, it's usually the case that it's a transaction type of deal, right? And so, to put it into other terms, if the company takes a downturn, let's say that things are not going so well for the company, well, then they're going to have to fire you to save the company. It's sad, but it sucks, but it is the reality. Or let's say that you don't produce so well, like they have a problem with your performance, then you're also going to get fired. If you quit, as any business, they will simply hire somebody else because you are producing a value. It's not like you don't have any. Well, of course, you always have a certain emotional investment into every company, so it's not something that most people do all that. It's not something. It's not as clean cut as, it's just business. That old saying, for most people. But at the end of it, it is what will happen, and that is no more immoral. And it's I mean, if a company goes bankrupt, will the workers blame, I don't know, feel like that is it a question of morals if the company has to lay off a bunch of people to basically stay afloat? No, it sucks, and you can blame people for the economy, and you can be upset about, people being incompetent and so forth. But it's not a moral question, because it's not a moral question. Just that for you, if you found that this is a place of work where, okay, this may not be exactly what you wanted to do, then it's no more immoral for you to say, no, actually, I want to do something different. And that happens on a daily basis. I could think about it this way, guys. Do you think that the people who run McDonald's think that all of their employees are just there to stay forever, or do they look at this as like a transitional relationship? Well, some people, as a business owner, I've seen that happen a few times where business owners go, "Well, I can't keep anybody around," and I go, "No, because you pay them peanuts and all they do every day is serve coffee. Maybe, if you're 19, you might want to do something different with your life going at some point." Not everybody, but there are certainly those who feel that way. And that is not as I said, it's not a moral question. It's really nothing weird about it. Like, to take other extreme examples, I mean, if you marry someone, and it turns out later on that actually you weren't, like, let's say that you're gay, should you stay in the relationship just and quote unquote be miserable potentially, just so that you don't have to, you know go through the ordeal of being honest with the other person or with your family or so forth? Or if you take on, as I said, if you take on a job where you don't really like working there, should you sacrifice your own happiness so that somebody else doesn't have to deal with simply hiring somebody else? Because that is in essence what you're asking me. I definitely think that if you feel as if this is not the place of work for you, especially if if you're doing low code things and so forth, then there's nothing weird about it, because as I said, this is a transaction. And it doesn't feel that way to you, but it is what it is actually that simple. So as long as you are doing well and you're producing code and they're paying you and so forth, then you're basically fulfilling the contract. And no sane manager that I know would go, oh, you have betrayed us or something like that. That's not like that's as if it would be a very weird mindset for someone who runs a business to have. It would have been a whole different story maybe if you were a partner, if you founded the company, or like you went in and took, like as I said, if it was, it's not, it's much messier if you talk about relationships and, as I was saying, being married and things like that, because that's a much more intimate relationship. But the relationship that you have with your place of work is usually not as extreme as I think that you're building it up in your head. And I think that if you do decide to go somewhere else, it's very likely that your company will understand, like your boss will understand, because as I was saying, the choice to do what you feel is right when you have acted in good faith everybody would do it in your situation. Even your boss, as I was saying, they would get rid of you, or they would change jobs if they don't if they don't want to keep on doing this, they're going to sell the company, as an example. So what I want you to take away from this is that yes, you have my blessing to go and find happiness, because it's not really a moral question whether or not you should stay in a company and when you're struggling financially, or the one way or the other. Because as I've said, when you have a job, guys, it is not the same thing as having an intimate relationship with someone, or so forth and so forth. There is certainly it's a good trait that you have a sense of loyalty and honor and all of and virtues and so forth. But you can't let that go to the extreme. Just as I took with my example of being gay, or figuring out that later in your life, or figuring out that you have a friend you don't really like, or so forth and so forth. People change over time, guys. We have different goals, we have different ambitions, and sometimes it sucks that we just have these temporary situations where you might stay in a company a very short time, or you might go and have a fling with someone and then it turns out that you didn't really like them all that much, or vice versa. These are not moral questions, it's the human experience. We can't possibly be the same people forever and just go and suffer so that we don't have to deal with something that feels a little bit iffy. And you basically saying that, well, actually I don't want to do this thing for all that long, but right now I need this job, is nothing weird. It's like a poor person having to steal food. They probably don't want to, but they have to survive, and they probably would not do so if they had a different life situation. And you're in the same boat. Just as your manager would have to fire you if you couldn't meet expectations, even if they really like you. So don't try to try to avoid making this into a bigger topic than it probably is. Have a great day.